Hi there, Marty here. Thanks for joining us today at Warehouse and Operations as a Career. We've mentioned transportation several times in other episodes, and I've had a few questions about the opportunities to move from warehousing into a driver's position, so I thought today we'd visit on a few of those positions. I'm really excited about today's show. Here in a bit, we'll be visiting with an over-the-road driver and hear how she joined the industry and a few of her thoughts about the profession. In the world of distribution, I feel there's really two different jobs to talk about in regards to driving. One being the delivery driver, outbound if you will, and another being the freight driver or long-haul driver. Let's call that the inbound driver today. A distribution center brings product into a facility to ship it out individually to its many customers or the end user, I guess you could say. Let's start with the outbound delivery drivers today, as that's where many of us will have the quickest opportunity to move into driving and delivering our company's own products. The quick advantage here is we're learning every single item the company carries. We see every customer's name that they sell to, and the company learns us as an employee, that we're motivated, trustworthy, and dependable, and they know what our goal is. They have an opportunity to groom us into a driver's position. A driver's position can pay very well, especially these days with activity-based compensation, case pay, or whatever you want to call it. Again, there are a few, if any, shortcuts to making that money though. Experience is what your company is looking for. Miles, time behind the wheel, or in our case, what I'd like to talk about here is product knowledge and time with the company. I've known several people that knew they wanted to be a driver only to find that it's tough to break into the field if you want to stay at home every night. There's some great opportunities with trucking schools and over-the-road companies, really some good deals to be had. But as with any pay-to-learn experience, whether by time or money, make sure you know what you're getting into, what's expected, and what the overall or real cost is. And to get the experience needed to make that good money, you may have to be away from home quite a bit, or possibly ride as a team for a while. More about that in a few minutes. I got sidetracked. Let's get focused back to the delivery driver. Like I was saying, I've known of several people that set their goal as being a delivery driver only to find that companies were looking for, real experience. I mean, we're asking them to put us out on the road in their tractor, their trailer, loaded with their product, making maybe 20 stops to their customers, and we really have no experience doing it. I think we'd all admit that's quite a bit of faith. However, I've seen this approach be very successful many times. If we, reply to a warehouse position ad, and we're willing to start at the bottom if necessary, and work our way through a few positions, we may just be able to get that education and get paid for it while we're doing it. I actually had this conversation with a young gentleman once. He had checked into a driving school. It was reasonably priced and came with an internship to help defray some of that cost, but he was puzzled by the contract that said he needed to do some team driving across state lines for a period of 1 year, but the good job was in the foreseeable future. We talked about how it sounded like a great opportunity. I sensed he was a bit hesitant and found that he didn't really want to be away from the family every day, maybe only being home a couple of nights a week possibly. He really wanted to more of like a local route or a delivery position, kind of an 8 to 10 hour job kind of thing. I pointed out that you had to put your time in to settle into something like that. I suggested getting a warehouse position with a local distribution center, do a great job for them, and maybe he could drive for them eventually. Well, a long and expensive story, I guess, later, he decided to sign on with the trucking school's offer, did it for about 6 months, and decided he just couldn't be away from home that much, and he ended up quitting, really kind of walking away. The silver lining is that he did eventually get an entry-level inventory control position with a distribution center, moved up through several positions, become an order selector for about a year and a half, approached his company for a driving position. They trained him, and today he's living the life, accomplished his goal, and is doing a great job for the company. Think of the time that he could have saved and the money that he wouldn't have lost had he just planned out this course a little bit better, really developed a plan instead of shooting from the hip. We all do it. I wish I had planned much better in my younger years, but this is a good example of how to reach for the clouds and really grab them. A delivery driver can be a rough job. It'll probably pay really well, but it can be tough too. The hours, they're going to be long, or they can be long. You have a lot of responsibility. Today's cities can really be a pain to get through, with like 20 stops and 1,500 cases to unload. At every stop, you could encounter an issue, something that's not on the truck. A case can be damaged, and it's always that one case that the customer really needs. The salesman, they can promise anything, something that hadn't been delivered. Any number of things can happen, and of course the customer has you to vent to and expects you to have really all the answers. It's a great job, though. I love logistics. You're really the president of the company when you're out on the roads. You're representing the company really at the highest level, which is with your customers, and probably being, paid pretty well for it. It's really freedom at its finest, if you will. The other type of driver we'll talk about today is the inbound driver. Your company has purchased a truckload of product and, you could be driving it in from 2,000 miles away. Talk about being the president of your company. And in many instances, you are the actual president, as you could own your own rig and you really be the decision maker. If you can be on the road, away from home some, and really have patience, a lot of patience, this can be a great and rewarding career for you. It comes with some of the aforementioned issues or opportunities. Plus, brokers and salesmen could sometimes tell us anything to get us on the road, only to find that our appointment was scheduled way too tight or was moved forward to another day. Oh, and trying to schedule our return freight so we're making money for the ride back may cost us a day here or a day there as well. And of course, weather. Weather can play havoc with our schedules also. Again, I mentioned that word. I mentioned that word, patience. It's a great life if it's a life for you, and can pay really well too. Inbound deliveries or over-the-road driving is thought to be less physical by many, and it's true there's many instances where you may just have to drop and hook, take off again, or maybe where you're unloading they offer a lumper service or have unloaders. But many times you may have to unload your own product. It just really depends on your terms and contract. I feel any driving is physical. Very few driving jobs are easy, but it's a great career choice if you're interested or really yearn for it. Many drivers I know call it more of a calling. And there's huge growth potential within the transportation worlds. Today's logistics uses computers, softwares, all kinds of systems, and offer global opportunities. Many of our supply chain specialists and logistics managers got their start in transportation, going on to plan, implement, and control freight movement over the roads and oceans. Couple that experience with a BA in supply chain and logistics management, and you may be able to work anywhere in the world. If you bought something today, it was brought there by truck. Well, that's some quick thoughts of mine regarding driver's positions, and we'll talk a lot more about transportation, a whole lot more actually, kind of in depth in upcoming episodes. I really love the industry and all of its opportunities. We have a special guest visiting with us today. Ellie is a long-haul driver, a professional in the field of transportation. You can keep up with her travels as we here at WAOC do through her Twitter feed at AzureAngel17. That's AZUREANGEL 17. Or her YouTube channel, Ellie O'Dare. Her travels are really interesting, and you can tell she loves what she does. Ellie, welcome to WAOC. I'm so glad you could take a few minutes and visit with us today.
It's my pleasure.
So tell us a little bit about your background and work history, Ellie.
I started out working in mostly retail, fast food, and then an electronics store, one of the major chains. And I kind of started watching other truckers on YouTube and wound up doing this myself. So I went out to Missoula, Montana. I grew up in Virginia myself. And I did a training program in Montana for Jim Palmer Trucking. And I've been driving over the road for almost a year now.
That is really interesting. And wow, coming from that industry into trucking, you must have really loved what you were looking at.
I really did. It was one of our other drivers was posting lots of videos to YouTube. And it just, growing up in a small town on the East Coast, it was eye-opening to see that much of the country. And I wanted to do it myself.
Fantastic. So do you work within one industry, or you pretty much carry all types of freight? And what kind of loads do you really prefer to carry?
Well, our trailers are, we pull prime refrigerated trailers. So we mostly stick to foodstuffs, produce, finished product, the occasional alcohol load for Budweiser. But we can also, every now and then, we wind up with what we call dry loads, which are bulk electronics, pet food once or twice, things like that. So you can put pretty much anything in a refrigerated trailer as long as you're very careful about how you put it in there.
Oh, I can imagine. Is there any particular type of freight, as it relates to loading or unloading or dealing with the end users that you prefer?
Definitely packaged goods are the easiest for us. Bulk product tends to be somewhat difficult. I hauled a load of sweet potatoes this week that was just dumped on the floor of the trailer. Had to be kind of vacuum conveyored out, and that was quite a mess to clean up afterwards. But packaged goods on pallets is definitely the easiest on us.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, that makes total sense. So what's your take on lumper services? Do you find that the cost of unloading is different regionally or nationally? And what do you think that lumper services could do a better job?
The cost is just wildly different everywhere you go. It's not really something that changes depending on where you're located nationally, but it varies wildly from company to company. Most Walmarts will just charge a flat $50, whereas you can have a small local place in Southern California will charge you $300. So the price is pretty much unpredictable. But as far as stuff they could do better, a lot of the issues that we run into is time management, because we're on a very strict clock because we've got a computer in our truck that determines when we can drive during the day. And if we're stuck at a shipper or receiver for 8 hours, that pretty much shoots a hole in our entire day.
Oh yeah, it really would. We've had a couple of different episodes where we help explain to young men lumping and stuff how the driver is really a customer. They've got other things to be doing, and they're pretty much kept to a pretty tight clock. So that was really interesting. And transportation is just such a huge industry. Really, we talked a little bit earlier in this episode about how getting into supply chain and logistics and, transportation can really carry you as far as you want to go. But there's so many drivers that just really love the road. What could you share with our listeners today kind of relating to careers in the trucking industry? Just kind of your own thoughts.
It is a fantastic field full of opportunity. There's lots of great things that you can see out here and a lot of great people that you can meet. But it's an industry that you have to be careful when you're getting into. There's companies that are awfully predatory out here, and there's a lot of opportunities to get into dangerous situations. And you want to make sure you're on with a good company that's going to teach you how to do this the right way and not leave you saddled with a whole bunch of debt and not great citations on your record.
Very good points. Ellie, I want to thank you so much for sharing some experience and thoughts with our group today. I really enjoyed the visit. You're a true inspiration to us in regards to transportation. I know several in our group follows you on social media. You make a tough job look easy and very enjoyable.
Oh, it's definitely very, very enjoyable. It's you get to see a lot of amazing places that it's just mind-blowing sometimes. It's the thing that I was not expecting with this job is I get to see the sunrise and the sunset almost every single day, and it's always breathtaking. And it's not something I really got to do a lot when I was working in retail. And it's just one of those nice little perks of the job that they don't really tell you about in the advertising material.
How true, how true. Well, you keep making those videos and you be safe out there on the road. We really appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Will do. Thank you for letting me on.
And thanks again to our listeners. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Please email us a comment or a suggestion to warehouseinoperationsasacareer.com or at warehouseinOps on both Twitter and Facebook. If you're on a path to driving yourself, we'd love to hear your story as well. Till next week, think safe and be safe. Others are waiting on us to come home tonight.